Hi, my name is Brisa, and this is Two Languages, One Dream. So, my story starts back in Ciudad Juarez, Mexico. My parents had me there, and we lived there for 2 years. And Ciudad Juarez was actually one of the most dangerous cities for females to be living in within the years of like 2003 like 2011 ish. At some point, it was declared like top city for femicide, which, if you don't know what femicide is, it's basically the homicide of women just simply for being women. And so living in that reality could be very like detrimental to your mental health, and I think it definitely impacted my family, and it definitely impacted the reason as to why we came to the US. My dad always tells me that one of the biggest reasons we moved was because in his household there was three women, being my mom, my sister, and me, and living in the most dangerous city for women, like it just wasn't suitable for us to be able to live a happy and safe life. And that is when we moved to Washington. We actually didn't live originally in Sunnyside. We lived somewhere else with a family friend for about a month. And then we were able to find the duplex that we lived in for like the last 13 years, something like that. And within that time, we had my siblings, which then made the space a little more crowded, simply because it was like a 2 bedroom, 1 bathroom. But I mean, we made it work, and it was what we could afford at the time. And getting through the school system was a whole nightmare, I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I had to rely on my sister for most of it to be able to help me learn not only the language, but genuinely just anything from the school system because everything was in English. And it was obviously hard for my parents to be able to understand the system, and it's completely different from what it is in Mexico. So it was two completely different worlds. And it was hard, but honestly, I think it taught me a lot about what it means to be resilient and to speak up for yourself. I think once I was able to learn the language and was able to understand how the system worked, I think I was very much able to put that into myself as a personality trait of if something is wrong, you have to speak up for yourself because there's nobody else that's going to just sit there and hold your hand and then do everything for you. Well, in my case, my sister did for a while, which was awesome. Honestly, I don't think I could have done it without her. It was definitely terrible, and I can only imagine how worse it was for her since she's the oldest and she had to learn everything first. It definitely must have been a very scary world. And then once I got to high school, like life got low key so much better because we moved to our new house, which I have my own room now, which is awesome. But also, I think I started really thinking about what life would be like once I graduated. I mean, I never really had like a life plan because I never really knew like what would happen next. Like I don't like I'm very much not a planner. So when people started asking me like, "Oh, what are you gonna do after high school?" I honestly had no response. For the longest time, I had said that I wanted to be a teacher because I thought it was very important to help the immigrant children in the school systems, knowing how hard it is. Like I wanted to be able to help them. However, the more I started like actually understanding myself and learning who I was, I learned that I'm not suited to be a teacher at all whatsoever. I have no patience. Um at least for things like that. And I'm also just really bad at like actually teaching people things. But my junior year, one of my teachers sent me a flyer for a job opening at a nonprofit here in town, working basically as a paralegal. And I applied because it was like, this is interesting, like law. Like I've seen so many like shows about it, and I love true crime. So I was like, this could be a gateway to me realizing what I want to do as a career. I was working as a paralegal for the immigration process. So being able to see people light up when they realized that they were going to get help, and knowing that the person helping them was someone who understood them, from that point forward I knew really that I needed to work towards being a lawyer, which then inclined me to really work on things that would help promote me as a good candidate for law school. I just started working with community-based organizations, trying to volunteer and do the best that I could to be able to just help the community. I feel like law school really views that as pretty well, at least from what I've seen on the internet. Having a lot of community experience, a lot of community organizations that you work with, it could all be beneficial to your law application. So that's what I've been doing. And also just, I really enjoy it. I think being able to see people light up when they are seen and they're heard I just think that that's the best. And I think as a lawyer, that's your job, to make sure that people are heard and to make sure that they feel seen. I honestly never thought of applying to Gonzaga. I mean, I had gone to tour, but it never was like my top choice per se. I started looking into their law school and realizing that their law school is actually pretty amazing. So I decided to enroll in Gonzaga. And honestly, I haven't had many issues there. I feel like my biggest issue really is like the imposter syndrome, but I feel like that's the same thing I felt when I was like 5 years old, learning English, only immigrant kid in the class, right? So I think being at Gonzaga is really just me trying to heal that inner child that was so scared to be like the only brown person in the room, the only Spanish speaker in the room. And it's become the same concept as at Gonzaga, where I sometimes am the only person of color. I sometimes am the only person that speaks Spanish, but I think that's the point, right? Like, it was a dream for me to come to college, and I'm in college now. And it was a dream for me to be a person of color, Spanish speaking, in the law system, in the legal system in general. And I feel like this is a step towards that, building my immunity to being afraid of being the only person of color, being the only woman, being the only Spanish speaker. And I think Gonzaga has really given me that opportunity. Maybe it wasn't intentional on their part, but I think they have really given me that opportunity to grow within my self confidence of who I am and that I do belong in a space. And honestly, I am so glad to say it now, because I didn't believe it when I first got into Gonzaga, but I truly do belong there. All I can say is, honestly, keep following your dreams. As an immigrant, I know it's hard and sometimes it's scary, especially with everything going on within the government. It can seem a little scary, and it can seem like you need to shelter up and not move and not be present and not be active. But trust me, your voice is so much more valued when it's heard. It has so much value. It has so much strength. You honestly just have to get past. You just have to get past being scared. And I know it sounds so harsh, but I'm such a direct person. You have to do shit scared. Once you do it, you'll realize that it wasn't scary at all. Trust me, that's the only advice I could ever give someone. I'm just so proud of me and Emily. We've come so far. Honestly, we wanted to be somebody, and I think now that we're doing it, it's definitely surreal, but I think we are a very good example that it can be possible, and that as long as you try, you can achieve literally anything. I mean, take my father for example. He built a house literally having $0 in his bank account, and we own a house now. Girl, keep dreaming. You'll get there. Lots of love.